Welcome to another CIRF report, everybody. I am excited about these Wednesdays, giving me a break from the mundane to get into the stars, get into the astrology, looking at all the influences and energies around us. And we've got quite a few festive ones. First of all, shout out to our Cinco de Mayo cultures. Going to be celebrating later today or already celebrating. And then we have some Mother's Day coming up in this second week of May. First, we got to get into our crazy stance. And I got a question for everybody as we do this. Have you guys noticed like an uptick in financial hardships or just hiccups, financial hiccups? Well, I'm going to have an explanation for you from a star's perspective today. And so what we do first, we look at the influence and we take from a lot of different strategies: astrology, tropical astrology, the I-Ching, the dream bot, which is the collective unconscious. And this is what you get. We triangulate. And what we have this week is belonging, or the feeling of needing to belong. Where's that coming from? Obviously, the I-Ching hexagram 45 just says gathering together. That's the blue right in the middle of the stars. So the stars is represented by this purple circle. We triangulate for these energies, by the way, which is why I'm showing you this slide. We have a lot going on in the astrology, including a new moon, Venus going into Gemini. We have that old square that we've been talking about with Sun and Uranus. And then we've got the Saturn, Uranus square Saturn. That one is the crazy one that's just going to hang around because Saturn's going to go into retrograde and keep that square alive. It's like the new world chiseling away at the old way of being, the old status quo. And both are battling each other this has been going on for several months. It's going to go on for another freaking, call it, I don't know, almost a year. I was thinking somewhere in January. I did go look at that and then I forgot. So that was some help. Maybe I will put a slide on there next time so that I can give you a firm date on when that ends. But that old square is there, new moon in Taurus. So we have the dream bot, the collective unconscious. We're going to cover that first. And in that one, I'm getting my slides ready to go. In that one, we're looking at reality testing. Everyone's sort of in a la-la land. It does feel a little crazy out there to me, in my opinion. It does feel more real, strangely, when I'm doing these CIRF reports, talking energy, talking the unseen world, than it does out in the real world. The outer world just looks crazy to me. And I'm sure they probably look at me and say, I'm crazy. But here's the other thing about the dream bot. The collective unconscious is pointing out the finer things in the simple life. And that is everything to do with that Taurus. So that's really parallel with what we're going to be talking about in the astrology. But we're going to talk about the dream bot first, and then we'll hit day to day into the astrology. But the most important part of this video, always, every week, is going to be the solution slide. The last slide on this video is the most critical because, yeah, you need to be looking for what the influence is, but you really want to know how to behave, how to act in order to maximize the energies afforded to us. Highest congruency score to date, and you're going to hopefully see why, because it's not just the influence that's overlapped, it's overlapped into the solution as well. So we'll explain all that. Hang on, we'll do that starting now. Okay, so thank you everybody for liking and sharing, and big shout out to if someone shared innerzension.com somewhere. That was pretty impressive. Thank you so much, because we got a lot of traffic in the last few days, 48 hours plus. It's almost a record amount. So I don't know who that was. I don't know if it was one of you, but thank you. God bless you. So let's zoom into our collective unconscious. And this is the dream bot. This is what people have been dreaming about. For some reason, Harry Potter seems to be the going trend in the dreamland. And then, of course, the word dream, as unusual as that might sound, that's not all that common for the word dream to be that high. So that's meaningful. Harry Potter, the stars. You can look at Harry Potter several different ways. I look at it as sort of a fairy tale or a movie or fantasy. And that goes along with dream and fragment, dream fragments, daydream, bed. That's where we dream. So and then even reality. That probably should be in a dashed line there, meaning that it's sort of the opposite, but it's reality testing. So I included that. Dream, we're sort of in a dream, a fantasy. So we're going to be doing a lot of reality, or we already are, reality testing. And then the blue arrows is more of just the finer things, chocolate being up there towards the top, and a lot of things in nature, like a park, in a forest, and then April, I'm not sure what April, springtime, maybe just the, simple things, path. So there's a path there, a simple path, simple life, that sort of thing. And it's pleasant. It's not like it's bad. There's only one sort of bad word or a negative theme, and that was separated, but that's not necessarily bad in and of itself. So, but the reason why I circled separated in here is because it sort of goes away from the theme of belonging or the need for tribal acceptance. So let me get into other areas to sort of elucidate or illuminate that area. Let's get the astrology out. And remember, I promised to talk about the financial aspects. So there it is. Well, there's one of them. Venus is going into Gemini halfway through this week. Second week in May, as you can see. Jupiter towards the end. I think this is actually going to be in the next CIRF report. My line is a little bit off. My vertical line here, I think, is a little bit off. But Jupiter is going into Pisces. That's a big deal. And then here's the big news, that Saturn, I keep talking about going into retrograde. That happens there in the, I think, third or fourth week in May. And that will keep this square alive. See that big red horizontal line? Not line, but, massive square there is the Saturn square Uranus. This is the status quo is being ripped apart by Uranus, and maybe even vice versa. They're battling it out. It's conflicted, but that pressure is going to keep building, and something magical is coming out of it. All right. It just is. Believe me. Trust me. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to trust me, but I'm sure you're all feeling it. There's a big stress right now. Before I get started in the day-to-day astrology, because I almost forgot, I was going to say this earlier, but it looks like the polarization is happening. And I know that that's sort of a planned thing, but if you look at it in terms of spirituality and the law of one, they talk about how you can only get to these next levels with this idea of getting more polarized. Sounds strange, but we'll cover that towards the end, hopefully in the solution slide. But it's not necessarily a bad thing when it's polarized, if you look at it through the lens of the law of one. Okay. Now, Thursday, the 6th. And happy, Cinco de Mayo again. Most of you that are going to watch the CIRF report are going to be watching it on Wednesday, the 5th. But if you get there later, no worries. Thanks for being here. Now, the astrology. There's a lot going on throughout the week. You can see that the waning moon is on its way to a new moon in Taurus. So you can see that's going to happen over the course of this week. And then you've got the squares that we always talk about. That's mainly the Uranus square Saturn, but Saturn's also squared up to the sun. That's the ego. The ego's changing. The ego's adapting to how to the self-worth, self-identity sort of issues. That's the sort of the Taurus way: worth, value, getting value, self-value, seeing the value in yourself. Identity is in here, particularly if you're young and old. Doesn't really matter. It's the ego that's changing and morphing with Uranus. And Uranus is also providing insight, but it's conflicted with the way things have always been. And so it feels like a hardship. That's sort of Saturn's way, is proposing a hardship. Then you have Venus squared up to Jupiter. Now here's the deal with Venus. I'm going to cover this in a little bit more detail. She's got a lot going on this week. First of all, she's got a square over to Jupiter, and these are the two finance planets. So they have a 90 degrees between them, which means that the energy doesn't flow all that well, and there could be conflict there. There could be some financial hardships. There's one. But then Venus is also trine to Pluto. Oh, that sounds like a good thing, right? Trine. Well, all that means is it's easy. That's the trine way. The trine archetype is easy energy to Pluto, which can feel like death and rebirth. It can feel like things are transforming. It can feel like the end. Remember how we always talk about Pluto being perceived the end? In reality, it's just the beginning, because Pluto also rebuilds. It doesn't just destroy, it rebuilds, but it's easy to see, the archetype of Venus. So relationships, love, beauty, finance, all those things can have a tendency of easily looking like the end. And this is exactly why I believe that a lot of, at least in my experience in the last few days, it's just been one hardship or one hiccup or one financial hurdle after another. And I got saturated last night, and I had to express my vulnerability. But we could be looking at a real bona fide overhaul of relationships, of beauty, of the way things are, of experience. Venus in Taurus is about experience, and it can even be lots of romance. And that could be an overhaul in all those things because of this Pluto energy, and because of the conflict to Jupiter, which is also the optimism. So Venus wants to feel love, but it's conflicted with the bright side or the optimistic side. So that's not a great feeling. So all in all, I'm thinking it's a positive thing, a positive feeling for Venus to be in Taurus. After all, Venus is home in Taurus and rules Taurus. So that's very good, a very positive feeling. But then both the trine and the square is going to probably degrade that positivity into, oh crap, what's next? That next shoe to drop sort of a feeling. And that's what I'm experiencing in my life. And it really does help to have sort of an outside understanding of some other places where this might be arising from, and it's temporary. So now on other astrological news, fall is Mars. Mars is in fall in Cancer, meaning he's running in water. It can be hard. It can cause you to spend a little bit more energy doing the same things you would normally do. And I can call this one of two things. This sextile, one of two things. It can either be a weak opportunity with Uranus. So Uranus can change things up, and Mars goes out and does those changes or carries them out. But in this case, it's a weak opportunity because Mars is in fall, and running in water doesn't feel all that productive. Or it could be a strong opportunity for non-doing. Maybe procrastination could be an opportunity in this case. So Uranus proposes a change or a big insight, and maybe it's not the right time right now. So procrastinating, or maybe just thinking about things that you're going to do later, might be an opportunity. So whichever way you want to look at that, it might be both in some of your circumstances, but this will be here, I think, all week, that sextile. Then just specific to May 6th, you've got the moon, the waning moon going over Neptune, going to make a conjunction, moon whizzing by in Pisces. So things are extra dreamy. This is what the collective unconscious was talking all about, which is fantasy, dreamy. Oh, we should be doing a lot of reality testing, which, use your five senses. So, in lucid dreaming, you can look at your hand, and normally in the dream life, the hand looks totally morphed. And that's how one way that a lot of people figure out that they're in a dream is that, things that should be normal aren't normal. And one of those things is typically the hand. All right, that's it for May 6th. Let's move on to Friday, May 7th. And someone please note this down. I'm wondering, I'm not calling for a market correction, okay? I'm just wondering, I'm not a financial astrologer, okay? So I don't know, but I was looking at this chart and mentioning that Venus and Jupiter are squared up to each other. And I'm just wondering if on May 7th, because I think this one, it goes exact on that day. I talked about this earlier, but it really reaches a climax on the 7th. So let's just see if I'm right. It's Friday the 7th, and see if there's a market correction, because both the Venus and Jupiter are squared off to each other, but it could be other things too. We could perceive this as sort of the end. That could be in the financial markets. That could be this easy energy. So the trine down to Pluto could be, oh my God, it looks like the end. Maybe. I'm not saying it is, because again, I'm not a financial astrologer, but I'm wondering what those financial astrologers would even say in this alignment. To me, it seems like it looks like catastrophe when it's not really catastrophe. And that could be a market correction. It's but the other trine, let's see here. Okay, so what I have here is another way to look at these archetypes, the Venus trine Pluto, because Pluto is in future-oriented Capricorn, is that future-oriented, logical or rational thoughts. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was really talking about Mercury. Mercury coming over the North Node. They're 4 degrees away, and it's a trine over to Saturn. So future-oriented, logical, rational thoughts to collective, that's Aquarius, hardship, that's Saturn. So collective hardship. And you're going to be, it can be very rational if you look at it. And this could go really well with our reality testing that we had to start the day prior. All right, I covered everything else. Saturday, get into the weekend, and you've got the last day of Venus in Taurus, because right at about midnight, what you're going to see is Venus going into Gemini. And what's midnight? Well, midnight represents Sunday the 9th and Mother's Day. So it just so happens that Venus is going to get a double change. And not that she's affected by Mother's Day, it was quite the other way around. But you're going to see an extra energy shift with the collective mindset of Mother's Day. That's sort of a togetherness thing, appreciating mothers and nurturing. And Venus also making that change. Now, she's not the mother per se. That's more of the moon. So that's interesting right there. The moon is sort of the mother in the astrology archetype, but she is in Aries. So that's very interesting. I'm not sure how that'll play out, but I think this double energy, okay, so you've got the mother rounding out Aries and going to tip into Taurus shortly for her final venture, final last phase of this moon. And then Venus is going into Gemini. Venus in Gemini brings a sense of more, it's pleasant, air signs, Gemini, air sign, being pleasant with each other, but it brings a sense of humor, more humor, less seriousness, less grounded. So we can, talk about more things. Gemini being more adaptable. So certainly more adaptable than Taurus. So Venus now can be more adaptable with more people, be more compassionate on yourself and more accepting of yourself when you look in the mirror, i.e., Venus as beauty. And then soon, I think, well, disregard that, but you're going to see both of these planets going over the North Node. So both of these are going to be influenced towards the future. All right. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Just notice these energies. I'd be interested to see how some of you feel with the moon on Mother's Day in Aries. Seems like a little bit more impulsive, maybe a little bit more on fire to do what? To go out and nurture. And that's really commensurate with Mother's Day. It really brings the moon out in the limelight. And so anyway, just tell me how you perceive that energy on Mother's Day. And then Monday the 10th, we have the moon on its last leg. So she's going to be going over to Uranus. Remember, this is the day after Mother's Day. That alone can be an adaptation, an energetic adaptation for all of us, the mothering in us. But then, boom, hits Uranus. So things sort of change. So now the moon has changed signs and is going over Uranus in sequence. So, and then its final trek into the sun, which will be the new moon. So emotional insights, fast changing emotions, the moon isn't just mothering or nurturing, but it's also our emotions, our emotional reactions, etc. So with Taurus, we really should pay attention to your emotions. And as they change, they can provide you big insights. That's Uranus as well. Uranus insights and change. So fully experience your emotions, particularly on Monday the 10th. And then on Tuesday, we have at around 2 p.m. Central Time, on May 11th, we have a new moon in Taurus. This one at 21 degrees Taurus, 18 minutes, and we've picked up a trine to Pluto. So we've been talking about Pluto quite a bit. He's a tiny little planet out there in the cold and hardly seen. This is the subconscious. Can be very powerful, but you don't know where that power's coming from. And that's going to be a nice stamp on this new moon cycle, in my opinion. It's going to bring in that Pluto, that very deeper sense of confidence, assertiveness, but it's not like you know where it's coming from. So it's going to be more of the subconscious realm. Then this new moon also has opportunity, and it's back to the dream bot again for this Neptune. So it matches the dream bot perfectly. It's about the net worth or your self-worth of this new moon cycle because it's in Taurus. And it's about, dreams. That's Neptune. This opportunity here, these sextiles, is reality testing again. And dreams can provide you with insight. Dreams can provide you with opportunity. And opportunity in how you perceive yourself, in how you experience things. You can look more at your life in terms of, I don't really like advertising judgments. The finer things is sort of a judgment, but you can maybe gratitude might be the better replacement word here. Gratitude for the things that you have, maybe even in those times where you don't have the finer things, and just seeing how there are advantages of those things more automatically instead of mechanically. But it's a grounded feel because they're both earth signs. There's a lot here. There's a lot of stamps on this particular moon in Taurus at 21 degrees, 18 minutes at about 2 p.m. Central Time on the 11th. And it's got the trine to Pluto stamp, and it's got the opportunity sextile stamp over to Neptune. So pay attention to your dreams on this whole cycle, this whole next lunar cycle. And they'll be, ironically, practical dreams because of this earth empowerment of Pluto, and earth sign. Practical transformation of the material world. There's lots of different ways to look at that archetype. Wednesday the 12th. Now, we've been seeing, this stellium keep moving from Aries over to Taurus. It was all this Taurus energy. And now you're going to see the stellium in Gemini, particularly on the 12th of May is when it starts. And the moon will be out of here before the sun shows up. But for now, you've got Mercury, the north node, and Venus. Mercury is 3 degrees away from the north node. Venus now is 6 degrees away from the north node. So the central theme here is the future. The brand new moon that you've got all these different attachments to. It's starting its new cycle, so it's waxing here and it's waxing into the future. Very great way to start this new moon cycle, because you've got the insights from the identity changing and the self-worth. And those insights from Uranus and the sun have hopefully glommed onto the new moon. So you've got your new sense of self as you head into the future with great logic. You've got Mercury not in retrograde yet, and North Node. So pushing forward into the future. Of course, I'm a futurist, being an Aquarian. And so I'm right at home. Love seeing that new energy going forward instead of backwards. So I think that's also helpful for the great transformation that's happening collectively. Very positive, moving forward. So stellium and Gemini. I've got my ascendant and the moon in Gemini. So this is going to be, and for those of you who are also have that Gemini influence, this could be a very positive time for you starting on May 12th. And the stellium there with, remember all those influences on Venus? So she's adapted too, but now she's in Gemini. So it's going to push that out through that lens. So whatever she's learned. And then Mercury's got a trine over to Saturn. That's easy energy, easy logical energy, insight with maybe the collective status quo or the opening up of the Aquarian age, that sort of thing. That's the benefit here, is your rational mind can pick that up. You can see it because it's over the north node, boom, over to the new status quo collectively. Beautiful time to be alive. Hopefully that's your feeling there as Uranus continues to chisel away at Saturn, the status quo. All right. That's it for the day-to-day astrology. Let's get in to the I-Ching reading. We did the influence, cast our 3 coins 6 times, and we got 2 change lines with hexagram 45. And that's gathering together. And I think it really points towards the Mother's Day. But as we talked about in the astrology, it really highlights that Venus energy and the Taurus energy, in my opinion. So this reading may be pointing to an auspicious time for large group events or undertakings. In a time of gathering together, it is essential that precautions against unforeseen dangers be considered, along with efforts to advance the common good along with clearly charted course. Interesting, doesn't it? Is this calling for some sort of false flag or something along those lines? Sure hope not. And that is the last thing that I think would be good for us. But, it is what it is. Any time of gathering together is a time of potentially great power, which can be either positive or negative. 9/11 was one of these, and it woke a lot of people up. But I don't like doing mass, problems like that just to wake people up. I think we could hopefully wake them up without big catastrophes. Got my fingers crossed. Everything is magnified when masses of people join together for a single purpose. I couldn't agree more. Let's continue with our lines. What is it that is drawing people together? So look at the intention behind the group. This has everything to do with the overall influence. If you can see that lower right-hand side, belonging or tribal acceptance, this is where we're at. Looking at the intention of the tribe before you belong, before you try to get their acceptance. Before joining in, it is best to first learn the answer of what is drawing them together. One doesn't need to have a grand designs to achieve a gathering. Those involved need only understand each other intuitively. And then finally, line 3, if unity within a certain group is desirable, but you are an outsider, begin by aligning yourself with the leader of the group. I don't know, take that or leave it. That seemed like it was important in the CIRF report or in the I-Ching reading. So I'm reading it. But, and again, this is not the solution. That's the point I wanted to make. Remember that this hexagram 45 is the influence part of the I-Ching. And that means you're going to feel like you want to belong, or maybe you feel like an outsider. It's the continuum of either feeling isolated, feeling alone, or feeling like you want to be together, or feeling like you're part of the tribe. It's not like one is better than the other. It's just that continuum is the influence. All right. Now, let us get into the solution, and I'll do the sponsor slide before we get to the solution slide. All right. So here we go. Here's part of the solution. When you put those change lines in, you get hexagram 28. Now, this is the solution according to the I-Ching, excessive pressure. Remember what I talked about false flag? Oh, I hate reading this. Something is about to collapse. A great pressure is causing an imbalance that needs correction. Great. Wonderful, isn't that? Now, is this saying that, like the market's going to collapse? Well, I mean, that is overlapped in the astrology, actually. But am I calling for it? No, I'm not predicting that. This is simply what, the evidence is, or the modalities, and this one's the I-Ching. If the dam is about to burst, moving out of the way is your first priority. So what we're talking about now is the behaviors, not the influence. So the statement that says something is about to collapse is not really a solution. It's not really behavior. We are looking at this for behaviors that we can actually do. So bottom line, if the dam breaks or if there is a collapse, moving out of the way is your first priority. All right. Now, that didn't mean that you have to move. It means it's invoking some sort of behavior for you automatically in that collapse. If your house is collapsing, getting out is the priority. If you're having a fire in the house, it depends. Yes, of course. But there's action that needs to be taken. You can't just sit there on the couch. All right. Extraordinary times bring out the best and worst in people. And this is where the polarization comes from, the comment, or part of where it comes from. You're going to see really great people, really bad people coming out in droves. You're going to see us more stretched, more polarized as a community, as a collective. When a great weight is upon your world, powerful movements present opportunities to make great gains, because everything is in a state of flux. This doesn't just have to do with the some people where they don't let a good problem go to waste, or a good disaster to go to waste. Remember that comment? Well, this is also true for us individually and our tribe. Is there are opportunities in these times. Action must be taken now to ensure opportunities for success later on. So even if your behavior is not finished right now, it's setting you up for a later success. So think about those action items right now. You never know the true extent of your abilities until you, at least once in your life, dive into a crisis with complete abandon. dedicating every ounce of your energy and every fiber of your being to the cause at hand. Now is that time. Dare to win. So, those of you who want to be a part and front and center of the Great Awakening, now is that time, in my opinion, according to this. Now, when we do our plotting, this is important for the sidereal solution and the rave mandala. You notice here we've got the new moon. I can't remember. I think it was on Sunday. I can't remember. Dang it. And it's chopped off. Okay, so whenever that is, that's the new moon, and we plot that. It's at 21 degrees in Taurus. That brings us to 23, hexagram 23, gate 23, the rave mandala. And it brings us the Aries solution. So this is going to be really interesting solution slide. But first, before we get to that, let's just talk quickly about hexagram 23. This is the rave mandala. The gate is about eliminating intolerance, a design of individuality from genius to freak. If the individual can express their insight clearly to the collective, they will eventually earn the collective's respect. If they cannot clearly express their insight, they will be shunned and dismissed as outsiders or freaks. This description is, of course, the extreme of the polarity. It just so happens that this is part of our solution slide, but it has everything to do with the tribe or belonging or tribal acceptance. But it's the continuum. Yes, from the I-Ching, we're getting more polarized, but from the rave, you're going to see your attempt at belonging in the collective is going to go one way or the other. You're either going to be a genius or a freak, and it doesn't have anything to do with you. All you can do is according to the rave, is express your individuality and clearly as you can, and then it's up to them to decide if you're a outsider or freak or you're part of the group. And think of that as sort of a divine thing, so that you're not trying to push your way into a group that you don't belong in. Let them have their opinions, okay? Move on to the next group if that happens. And then more precisely, individuality is the line 3. That's where the new moon is at the time of the new moon. Independent expression that is not by its nature detrimental to others. So don't be harmful to others, but be independent expression. Don't just follow everyone else. And it says the good part of this will be vitality and personal power that can engender jealousy but not threat. Individual expression which attracts attention but not threat. So don't get people on the defensive, but do your true individual expression. All right, with that, I'll get set up while we do the sponsorship, and then we'll talk the solution slide, put it all together for you, so there won't be any question on what is needed from you this week. And breathe with this slide. That's the feeling of inner peace. And inner peace can be found through intervention therapy. Go to intervention.com. Peace out. All right. How do you feel now? Do you feel more relaxed? We have hypnotherapy at intervention. Go to intervention.com. All right, here we go. Here's our solution slide, everybody. Now, I just want to be clear. The influence is not to try to belong. That's not what we're doing here. It's just that the influence is knowing where you are in terms of belonging or tribal acceptance or which tribe you are. You're assessing the intentions behind the group. It's just all that stuff is the influence. It's not whether or not you belong or not. It's the influence of belonging. I hope that makes sense. If not, ask and I will hopefully illuminate that some more. All right, here we go. Here's the solution. I-Ching, remember what the I-Ching said. 28 says, get out of the way. If there's a crisis that pops up, get out of the way. There already is a crisis, so get out of the way, I guess. Jump okay, so I have and here. These are two contradictory things here. Recognize that. Get out of the way and jump into the crisis. Basically, non-action, according to the I-Ching, non-action isn't a choice this week. Expect to see the best and worst in others. This is the polarization effect. Dedicate your entire being to the cause or to a cause. The rave said gate of assimilation. You again see the extremes of the polarity. And in the law of one, they talk about the polarities being service to self and service to others. And those are the two avenues that which you can progress to or get harvested to the next dimension or density. So if you try to be both, that numbs or reduces your chance of getting to the next level. So it's either you got to be super duper service to self or super duper service to others. And if you are super duper in one of those, then you get to progress to the next stage. Well, I'm thinking that's related to this rave mandala personally. And we're seeing more and more polarity as we move along. We're seeing more and more power hungry people. And we're also seeing more and more giving people and tolerant people and loving people. If you're not seeing that, then I don't think you're looking around quite enough. You're only looking at what mass media is showing, or even alternative. Alternative love to be in this polarity thing, the polarity game as well as fear. So that's all I have to say about that. Continuing on, to gain collective's respect or be seen as a freak. The week of individual expression. So according to the Rave Mandala, it's more about the goal is individual expression, and then let the collective determine whether or not you are seen as the freak or the or part of the group. Now, if you are seen as the freak, then you're in the wrong group anyway. And so go find a better group that has a better intention. Sidereal solution is Aries. And I've changed one of these downsides, the negative aspects of Aries, and that's impulsiveness. You remember what the I-Ching said? Get out of the way and jump into the crisis right away. And that's an impulsive endeavor. And so impulsiveness by itself isn't always bad. And I think it's going to be an asset this week, which is why I think we should be grateful about the sidereal solution. The Aries is direct, transparent, vigorous, confident, intense, brings passion to the table. So when we triangulate all these, they are really sort of saying the same thing. But anyway, here we go. Crisis looms, but it's not guaranteed. At a minimum, we should see an uptick in polarity, more than what we've seen now, which is already at a crescendo, in my opinion. Ego finishes insightful change from Uranus and immediately picks up boom trine to Pluto. We talked about all that. The I-Ching is mostly about noticing other people's reactions, and the rave is about how others notice your reactions. So it's a synergy, both. It's a two-way dynamic. And perception, it's a two-way perception, which gets wonky. It's the week of polarity extremes and reactions. It all seems to be pointed to individual expression, especially given the Aries solution. Its gift is something we normally want to avoid or moderate, impulsiveness. If crisis manifests, impulsiveness becomes an asset. Get out of the way or jump all the way in. Do what's right for you. But the idea here is to act. To prepare. You can list and prioritize your highest values so that when you can't predict all the different crises that can happen. I mean, it could be thousands of different outcomes. The best way to prepare, in my opinion, for any sort of crisis is to list out what's important to you. So for example, if family is up at the top, now this isn't what should be important to you. This is what truly is important to you. You know, if, as an example, if family is at the tippy top of your values list and there's a fire in the house, then your response would be, depending on who you are and your ability to carry out these actions, of course. But if you were me, the first action would be go scouring and making sure nobody's in the house, making sure everybody's out. That's an example of how the value became the response. But if family wasn't at the top, then my action would be different. Know your values like the back of your hand. That way your impulsiveness is not regretful later. So let's say the example is the same example. Family is at the top, but yet you go save yourself, or let's say you try to go get some of your possessions before you get out of the house and you burn to death. Well, that's a lot of regret in your soul life. Or if you get massive burns or whatever, that's probably regretful action. Maybe, who knows? But if you save yourself and your family members die and you could have saved them or helped, well, that's a lot of regret. That's probably some massive regret later. I don't want you to prepare for these sorts of things. I mean, I don't even want you to think about what sort of crises can be on the table. I want you to simply list out your top 3 values. What is most important things in your life at this time in your life? And they're not collective level values. These are individual values. Then the next suggestion is, even commensurate with your values, but talking about something totally different, is individual expression in and around this concept of tribal acceptance. So you see a group you want to join. Individual expression is your doorway. You act, you be true to you, and let them have their own perceptions. If you get this perception that they think you're a freak, well, then honor that and go to another group. But you might be surprised. All right, everybody. I hope that was enough. I think I've got close to covering everything I wanted to cover. And I appreciate you being here. Have a great week. Doesn't have to be a crisis. I'm not saying a crisis is going to happen, but be ready, and be ready by having your list of values prepared ahead of time. Memorize them. Have them know them like the back of your hand. Be ready and agile for the Aries impulsiveness, and you'll be ready. And if there's no new crisis or anything or imminent crisis, well, so be it. Fine. You'll be prepared for the next one. But I think that's about it. So belonging or tribal acceptance, that's a thread through the influence and the solution. There may or may not be a crisis. On that Friday, if someone could remind me or jot that down and see whether or not the market collapses, let's all do that. Or a correction in the market based on the Venus thing. Maybe that's the crisis. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe nothing happens. Anyway, enjoy your week, everybody. Hope this helps. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next week.